The Good Things portal did not go out of business during the COVID-19 pandemic, a sign that good things still happen despite these difficult times. And it's largely due to the spirit of Ubuntu displayed by ordinary South Africans who rallied to help each other in a time of need. Brent Lindecky has been telling those good stories on the portal, which has gradually increased its subscriber base. He says if there's one lesson that he's learned, it's that South Africans have more to gain by being more open with each other. In fact, he joins us now via our video link in Johannesburg. Brent, it's great to have you with us on the show. Great to have you back with us on the show. And this is certainly a good news story, the Good Things portal.
Wow, what an honor to be back on the show. And yeah, what a crazy, wild, bizarre year it's been. As you opened by introducing me, it's 100% true what you said. You know, in times of tragedy, we need to look for the helpers. Those are the heroes that we can truly celebrate. And that's exactly what the portal does. The Good Things Guy is all about celebrating extraordinary South Africans doing incredible things. And during this last year, that's exactly what I've seen, just people helping people.
And, you know, I feel like a lot of people might look at you, might see the portal and perhaps think that the reason why you're able to be who you are and be such a big part of the Good Things portal is perhaps because you've been untouched by the COVID-19 pandemic, but that's not the case.
Not at all. If anything, I have lost loved ones. We lost a business. You know, we're facing this COVID-19 pandemic and lockdown head on. I am. And one of the biggest things for me and one of the biggest realizations has been mental wellness and how not every day is a good day, how perhaps it's okay not to be okay. And I think from that, something that I've learned is vitally important during this time is to reach out. If you're not feeling a great South African word, lekker, if you're not feeling lekker, then you need to reach out. And that certainly helped me get me through the tough times over the last year.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, the last time I think you and I spoke was when your mom was on the road to recovery after contracting COVID-19. But I believe both your parents had the virus at the beginning of the lockdown.
Yes, and at that time, I mean, it was so new, we didn't quite understand what it was, and I didn't really understand what it could do to my parents. My first thought in those first 3 or 4 days was that I would lose them. They're both over 60. They are both my rock and who I look up to, and it was really, really harrowing to think that I stood a chance of losing them. I think just lucky enough, my parents made it through, they survived, and they're doing really, really well. But from that, we have lost family members during this time, and it's been incredibly heartbreaking.
Yeah. You know, I'm sure a lot of people come to you with these kinds of questions as the Good Things Guy, as you're now known in South Africa. But talking about losing loved ones in the midst of a pandemic where, number one, you're not able to be with that person in their final moments, but also you're not able to grieve in the way that we grieve, which is with each other. How did you manage to get through that part of the pandemic?
Sure. Very complex question. I think that it's something that many of us are facing right now. How do we deal with grief upon grief upon grief? We're all facing traumatic things during this lockdown, and whether that's a loss of normalcy, loss of businesses, loss of loved ones, or the loss of understanding what is to come, almost the uncertainty. We're almost all in this anticipatory grief stage daily, and then added to that, when we lose a loved one, it's just like trauma upon trauma upon trauma. How do we deal with it? Sure, maybe by not losing hope. Maybe by not losing hope in the fact that we will survive, some of us will survive, that we will get through this, that we will rebuild, and that maybe, possibly, we might be better people for it. We might learn to appreciate our families more. We might We might learn to appreciate the people around us more, the jobs we have, little things. I spoke about on my social media this morning how weird things got with the fact that we couldn't even leave our houses to go walk or take our dogs or run. And at some point it was like we all joined the 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Comrades Marathon every morning when we were leaving our houses. But for me, a year later, and I cannot tell you how I appreciate going out for a run in my neighborhood, being able to get out there. So I think perhaps I've learned, and we will learn from this, that the little things are actually the big things, and hope we just can't lose it.
Oh, that's really so beautifully said. Thank you for that, Brent. I mean, it's hard to think that we've been through a year. Tomorrow it's 365 days exactly of a lockdown in South Africa. Some crazy stories coming out of the last year of heartbreak that all of us have experienced. And I'm looking at your goodthingsguy.com website here, and I think it's your reflections on the past year of the lockdown. Roast chickens, when we were all prevented from buying Woolies roast chickens. Flip-flops, we couldn't buy flip-flops either. And who can forget the Tiger King on Netflix? Just some of your reflections.
Yeah, look, I mean, I'll start off that opinion piece by saying the weird got weirder.
Yeah.
Because every day we woke up and there was some strange thing that was being said and some regulation that we didn't quite understand. And maybe it did fit into the bigger scheme of things. I'm not a thought leader on what those regulations were or how they should have played out. But we really did go through a bizarre phase. I spoke about somehow we collectively all started baking banana bread. and I have no idea why. It was really just a bizarre time. Yeah. But to look back at that time and to look back what we've been through, wow, what a year. I'm just thankful to be healthy and to be here, and more than anything to have realized, and I started off by saying mental health, and it's okay not to be okay. That's been the biggest thing for me. For so long, Good Things Guy's almost 8 years old now. I've believed that I needed to be this constant source of happiness and light. And I think what I realized during lockdown is that is not sustainable or real. We all have bad days. We all have breakdowns. We all have sad days. And to be honest and authentic and true to those days may have helped not just me get through this time, but may have helped other people realize that, it's okay not to be okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's such an incredibly important role that you and others like you play. If you just think about scrolling through your Twitter timeline in the midst of a pandemic, and there is so much heartache and bad news, and then you see a link to a story, an incredible story that you may have found and posted on one of your Twitter links. How do we ensure that the important work that you and your team do continues?
Jeepers, you're going to make me cry on national television, because it's so incredible to hear someone that I honor and look up to appreciate the little bit of work that we do. So thank you. But I think the only way to continue supporting us and making sure that the good news is shared is by reading it. Yep. It's that simple. We don't need money. We don't need anything physical. We just need a bit of your time and maybe a share here and there. And if you continue reading South Africa, if you continue tuning in and looking at the good news that we find, then I promise you the team and I will continue putting that out there for you.
So read it and pass it on. Pass on that good news to someone else.
That's it. That's simple.
Brent Lindeque, it's always a great pleasure talking to you on the show. Thank you so much for coming onto the channel. He is the founder of The Good Things Guy. He is, to many of us, the Good Things Guy here in South Africa.